Good morning and welcome back. You're watching World News and I'm your host, Klaudia Czerwińska. Polish astronaut Sławosz Uznański-Wiśniewski has officially entered the Earth's orbit as the SpaceX craft traveled towards the International Space Station. Following liftoff, the Falcon 9 rocket reached a speed of over 27,500 kilometers per hour. Uznański-Wiśniewski briefly addressed the Polish nation with a heartfelt message. The long-delayed mission carries 4 astronauts, including, of course, Poland's Sławosz Uznański-Wiśniewski, who will become the first Pole aboard the ISS. During the mission, the Polish astronaut will conduct 13 scientific experiments. The team is expected to arrive at the station at around 1 p.m. CEST on Thursday. Now, coming back to the words of the Polish astronaut while heading into the orbit, Uznański-Wiśniewski gave a brief address to the entire Polish nation, saying that space is for everyone.
Dear fellow Poles, today we are taking a huge step toward Poland's technological future, a Poland based on science, knowledge and vision. May this mission mark the beginning of an era in which our courage and determination shape a modern Poland for us and for future generations. Space has always been a force for unity. Today I am taking a piece of each of you with me from Earth, your strength, your hope and your trust. I am not alone in space. I represent all of us. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for your trust. Space for everyone.
And now coming back down to Earth, NATO leaders are gathering in The Hague for a meeting that could redefine the future of European security. Leaders will pledge to drastically increase defense spending in the hopes of convincing President Donald Trump to stay committed to Europe's defense. Our correspondent Alex Cadier is at the leaders' meeting in The Hague for us. Good morning, Alex. So this is a question that everyone seems to be asking. Will Trump abandon Europe?
Well, good morning, Claudia. I was just in the last few seconds speaking to the UK's Defence Secretary John Healey. His answer to that question was no. He wanted us to focus on the fact that Donald Trump had committed himself and the United States to Article 5, that collective defence agreements of the NATO alliance, providing perhaps some reassurance off the back of comments by the US President saying that there are many definitions to Article 5, and his definition he will only give after he has come here to The Hague. So he will have that meeting with his NATO partners. Some warmer words by the US President on the way in to this meeting, but certainly the stakes very high. That pressure from the US to spend considerably more. We've seen the UK just this morning announcing that they were purchasing F-35s from the US, which could carry nuclear weapons. A drastic change in that UK position. I also spoke in the last few hours to Kaja Kallas, the EU's top diplomat, asking her whether countries within the EU, like Spain, not spending enough, are responsible in making that decision. This is what she had to say.
If you listen to different officials from the intelligence, they are telling that the threat is very real. If we look at the map of the world, we see that Europe is a very small continent. It is clear that Russia is posing a great threat, and the problem with defense spending is that you need to explain this to your people at the time of peace, when it is very hard to understand why we need this. But if you need this, it's already too late. We are doing this because we also want to deter any aggressor to look our way.
So clearly there, Kaja Kallas identifying the threat from Russia, perhaps the feeling, some in Western Europe not taking it as seriously, but nevertheless, many countries committing to ramp up their defense spending. That'll be divided between 3.5% of GDP on traditional defense spending, military spending, and 1.5 looking at critical infrastructure, preparing Europe for a potential war on the continent for the first time since World War II. The discussions will happen today. The European leaders will try to convince Donald Trump to stick by Europe for now, but it is clear the continent will have to step up. Claudia.
Definitely another busy day ahead of us. Thank you so much, Alex. Alex Cadier reporting live from The Hague. We will make sure that Ukraine can continue to count on the support of NATO countries in the coming years, said NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte ahead of the start of the Day 2 of the NATO Summit in The Hague. The chief of the alliance also spoke about the need to increase defense spending as well as other issues on the agenda.
It's really important that we spend more, so that will be number one on the agenda today, a new plan when it comes to spending over the coming years. Of course, defense industrial production. We know that we are lacking a defense industrial base which is producing sufficiently. So we have fantastic companies, but they have to put in the extra production lines, they have to put in the extra shifts in making sure that we produce the ammunition and all the items we need. And Ukraine will be big at the summit today, will be discussed, making sure that Ukraine over the coming years will continue to count on the support of NATO countries to keep them in the fight, but also make sure that we can bring Ukraine to a durable and lasting peace.
If the rest of Europe had the same level of commitment to security, I don't think this would even be a topic for discussion, said Joshua Bergen, founder of the Alliance for Global Security, in an interview for TVP World. He was referring to the importance of increasing defense spending and the need for all NATO members to recognize the alliance's significance for future national security. Here's more.
Well, you and I are not behind closed doors. We can't see what's actually happening. Unfortunately, personalities do play here. A deal could well be in hand at the moment, that for reasons of personalities and the interpersonal conflicts that could take place once in the room, it might not happen. Nevertheless, I do think it's a step forward. Simply the notion of a 5% conversation 2 or 3 years ago is unthinkable, and now we're at a place where that's at least within striking distance. I don't think the question of 5% is a matter of if, but when. If it happens now, great. If it happens 6 months or a year from now, that's also a step forward compared to where we were just a couple of years back. Eastern flank countries, Poland definitely knows this. If the rest of Europe had the same level of commitment to security, defense, the complete awareness of an adversary to the east, as Poland does, with its 4.7% spending, I don't think this would be even a topic for discussion. But the reality is others need to be effectively drug along, whether that's Spain, whether that's Hungary. Everybody has their differing interests, but at the end of the day, social spending will pale in the context of a hot conflict. And if these countries aren't prepared to contribute to the defense, their social spending may well be for naught in that context. The president is absolutely right to push for this. Good credit to all the other actors who are pushing that ball, the Secretary General, even the Chancellor of Germany, in a pretty profound departure from the previous couple of chancellors, supporting that roadway, supporting that path, probably for Germany's interests more so than the alliance or even the United States. But I believe it's ultimately going to lead to an outcome, whether now or in the future, that is better for the whole.
In The Hague, NATO and EU leaders spoke with Volodymyr Zelensky about Ukraine's possible accession to the European Union. The Hungarian Prime Minister, however, seems not exactly keen on Kyiv joining the EU.
I had a joint meeting with the presidents of the European Council and the European Commission and the NATO Secretary General, Antonio Costa, Ursula von der Leyen and Mark Rutte. We are working to ensure unity among our allies. We focused on cooperation within the new defense instrument SAFE and the negotiation process on our accession to the EU. It is important that the leaders of the member states reach a common decision to open the first negotiation cluster. It is unfair when a single party blocks the Union's decision. President, with all due respect, the European Union was founded to bring peace and prosperity to its member states. Accepting a country that is at war with Russia would immediately drag the EU into a direct conflict. It is unfair to expect any member state to take the risk.
Poland's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Radosław Sikorski, said he hopes U.S. President Donald Trump draws the right conclusions from Vladimir Putin's strikes on Ukrainian civilians since Washington opened ceasefire talks, as well as Russia's stance on the Israel-Iran conflict. The Polish official added that Moscow's stance in both these matters show how little Putin values Trump's peacemaking efforts.
I hope President Trump draws the right conclusion from the fact that Putin has increased his attacks, particularly on civilians in Ukraine, since President Trump's peace efforts, and doubled again since the start of the latest hot period of the Middle East crisis. I hope it shows what an opportunist he is and how little he values President Trump's peace efforts. And I remind you that it's now already 100 days since Ukraine has agreed to an unconditional ceasefire. I hope Putin pays the price for supporting Iran in this current confrontation.
Italy pledged €1.5 million to support demining efforts in Ukraine in cooperation with the UN's development program and the Ukrainian authorities. The Italian ambassador to Kyiv, Carlo Formosa, said the project is a step towards returning land to farmers, playgrounds to children, and safe roads to Ukrainian families.
The agreement was formalized during a high-level meeting in the Ukrainian capital between Carlo Formosa, UN's Assistant Secretary General, representative of the UNDP in Ukraine, and the country's Deputy Prime Minister, Yulia Sviridenko. The €1.5 million will support the UNDP's Mine Action Program, which focuses on clearing land of mines and other explosive devices left there by the Russian army. While the agreement marks progress in demining Ukraine, the country's officials stressed the need for continued international support and funding to accelerate clearance efforts.
Lithuania signed a memorandum with American and Norwegian defense companies to secure production of ammunition amid Russia's war against Ukraine. The partnership will integrate the efforts of the Lithuanian Giraitė armament factory with American Northrop Grumman and Norwegian Nammo. As per the agreement, Northrop Grumman will supply ammunition produced in the Lithuanian factory to the international market. The deal memorandum will initiate negotiations to produce medium-caliber ammunition ranging in size between 20 and 50 millimeters. Moreover, the Giraitė armament factory will be provided by the two companies with technology to produce 35mm ammunition. According to Lithuanian officials, the agreement will enhance national strategic autonomy in defense and ensure an uninterrupted supply of ammunition to Lithuania's armed forces. Kyiv and Copenhagen have signed a strategic agreement to launch Ukrainian weapons production in Denmark, boosting defense cooperation and investment. Denmark has allocated over $47 million to building the defense production plant. All drones manufactured there will be supplied to the armed forces of Ukraine, with production costs covered by international partners.
Today in The Hague, we signed a letter of intent with Danish Minister of Defense Troels Lund Poulsen, paving the way for the joint production of Ukrainian weapons on Danish territory. This document is the first step in implementing the Build with Ukraine initiative, which we began working on during the previous UDCG meeting. This is a strategic move that boosts our joint defense capabilities, strengthens supply chains, and creates new opportunities for technology exchange and integration of our defense sectors.
As soon as the Home Front Command notifies us about the removal of restrictions, the Ben Gurion Airport is ready to immediately receive all incoming flights, said Israeli Transport Minister Miri Regev. The official added that the airport in Tel Aviv is expected to serve over 170,000 passengers in the first day of operations since its closure on June 13th.
We are still in Phase D. As soon as the Home Front Command notifies us about the removal of restrictions, we are prepared. The airport is ready to immediately receive all incoming flights, both from Israeli and foreign airlines. From the beginning of the operation until the end of the day, more than 100,000 passengers are expected to enter the country and around 70,000 passengers to depart. Airlines ultimately need stability. Since there is no stability in the Middle East, and they don't always know when something might happen, they plan their flight schedules accordingly. Therefore, once they understand that there is no war, and once they see that the threats have diminished, some of them, of course, they will slowly begin to return. As for exactly when they'll all return, I don't know.
Polish divers discovered two wooden shipwrecks dating back to the 18th century off the northern coast of Poland. The group of divers reported finding well-preserved antique ceramics, pottery, and glass bottles at the site.
The two vessels were located during a recent survey of the Bay of Gdańsk by the Baltic Tech Diving Association and the Maritime Office in Gdynia. The ships were among 8 targets that were surveyed by the group off the Polish coast. Although most turned out to be modern debris or decaying steamships, 2 proved to have historical value. The 2 vessels lie just 2 kilometers apart in a restricted waterway between the ports in Gdańsk and Gdynia. Preliminary analysis of the pottery found on board indicates it was manufactured between 1725 and 1740 in present-day Germany. While the discovery may be exciting, the group noted that because the ships are located in a restricted waterway, they will probably stay there for decades to come.
And so this concludes our news service, but please do stay tuned. We're back in just a moment with more news, features, and interviews for you to enjoy. And we'll see you there.